Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, rights investigators accuse M23 militants operating in the east of DR Congo of terrorizing communities with summary executions. Human Rights Watch also warns that the Congolese military's tactics can sometimes risk inflaming tensions. Also, the UN slams Mali's expulsion of the rights chief of the MINUSMA peacekeeping mission, saying that the work he's doing there is more crucial than ever. And even though female genital mutilation has been banned in Ivory Coast since 1998, more than a third of women there are thought to still have undergone it. One activist is trying to bring about its end for good by breaking the taboo against speaking up openly about FGM. But first, rights investigators accuse M23 militants operating in the east of DR Congo of terrorizing communities with summary executions. Human Rights Watch says that in November, at least 22 civilians were massacred by the Rwanda-backed rebels in the Rutshuru territory of Kishishe. The organizations also warned that alliances between the Congolese military and armed groups opposed to the M23 have been inflaming tensions. I'm joined now by Thomas Fessy, senior DR Congo researcher at Human Rights Watch. Thomas, thanks very much for taking the time to speak to us. Now, what more have you learned about the way that the M23 operates? We know that it has long terrorized communities in the east of the country. It's recently rejected accusations of murder. What is there new in the report that you have released this week? Thomas, unfortunately, I think you may still be on mute. We can't hear you currently.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
So I was saying that we've been documenting new crimes by the Rwandan-backed rebel group in different parts of Rutshuru territory in North Kivu, and they're basically leaving behind their advance a growing trail of war crimes. We've been documenting summary executions of civilians, forced recruitment of civilians that they're using as porters for their weapons and supplies, or to do chores in their military camps, but also forcing to fight on the front line. So all these crimes we have corroborated, detailing in our report.
Now, you've also raised concerns about the appeals to ethnic loyalties that may be inflaming the violence. How does that work into the landscape being seen in eastern DR Congo in the pushback against M23?
Well, the M23 is mainly led by Tutsi, and they've been increasingly brandishing the identity card, basically saying we're here to protect the Tutsi community, which has been targeted, and so we are rising up to protect the community. But even though there has been underlying discrimination over the years, and there's a history of discrimination in that sense, and questions about identity in the region, no doubt, this doesn't justify in any way the war crimes that the rebel group is committing in North Kivu. And in turn, the Congolese troops have been using a web of militias that are mostly organized along ethnic lines, and this is all creating a recipe for potential further ethnic violence indeed.
And what about Rwanda's involvement in all of this? Why are you so convinced that it has a part to play in destabilizing the east of DR Congo when it's been very clear about denying any involvement?
Well, if the M23 was able to capture so many parts of Rutshuru territory, now Masisi territory, both in North Kivu, it's in part thanks to the support they receive from Rwanda, not only logistical support, but also Rwanda has been sending troops on Congolese soil to take part in some of the offensive by the M23. I think the evidence is for everyone to see. It's been widely documented, not only by our team, but also by UN investigators over the last year. There's photographic evidence showing cross-border supplies of ammunition, weapons, artillery. There's videos of Rwandan troops marching through Congolese villages. There's ample testimonies backing this up. Some Rwandan prisoners, Rwandan soldiers were made prisoners and arrested. So there's a lot of evidence that is out there. Some international governments have now recognized and acknowledged that support. The United States, the French government, the Belgian government, the German government, and even the European Union has called out Rwanda. So I think it's an established fact now, despite the repeated denials by Rwanda.
Thank you very much. Thomas Fessy there, Senior DR Congo researcher at Human Rights Watch, giving a bit of an insight into new understanding about the operation of the M23 rebels operating in the east of DR Congo and the Congolese military's pushback against them. Now, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov headed to Mali on Monday for talks about how the Kremlin could help Bamako battle an Islamist insurgency. Mali's military junta has embraced Russian support as diplomatic rifts with Western powers and international organizations deepen. Monday also saw the United Nations slam Mali's expulsion of the rights chief of the MINUSMA peacekeeping mission in the country, saying that the work that he's doing there is more crucial than ever. On Sunday, Mali's military government declared Guillaume Ngefa Atondoko Andali persona non grata and gave him just 48 hours to leave. Our regional correspondent tells us more.
Guillaume Ngefa Andali, the head of the Human Rights Division of the MINUSMA mission, was expelled from Mali for subversive and destabilizing conduct. He was given 48 hours to leave the territory. This decision comes a little over a week after a Malian human rights advocate delivered a speech at the UN about the deteriorating security situation in the country. Aminata Cheikh Diko, the vice president of the Kissal Observatory, an NGO dedicated to tracking human rights abuses in Mali, she condemned the extremist jihadist insurgency that continues to destabilize the country, and she also denounced human rights abuses committed by both Malian and Russian forces. She called on Malian forces to dissociate themselves from Russian actions, which could constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. That speech didn't sit well with Malian authorities, and they expressed doubts about her credibility and her legitimacy and accused the UN of having a hidden agenda. MINUSMA's presence in Mali has grown increasingly controversial and uncertain due to tensions with the host country and over a dozen countries withdrawing their troops from the mission. In the same UN summit, Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, described the MINUSMA mission as an untenable situation for the Blue Helmets and didn't exclude the possibility of withdrawing from the country as a whole.
Sophie Lamotte there for us. Now, even though female genital mutilation has been banned in Ivory Coast since 1998, more than a third of women in the country are thought to still undergo the practice. It's hard to establish exact figures, as talking about it is still taboo. One activist and writer, Ami Traoré, is trying to bring about an end to FGM by bringing it out into the open. Our correspondents went to meet her.
What comes to mind when you hear about FGM?
A room full of students holding their breath. Many see themselves in Safiatou, the main character of Ami Traoré's novel. The story is a bid to raise awareness about the dangers of female genital mutilation.
I had to live with the consequences of genital mutilation.
Female genital mutilation has been illegal in Ivory Coast since 1998, but still, an estimated 2 out of 5 girls in this room has undergone the procedure. For Ami Traoré, ending the cutting starts with breaking the taboo and openly discussing the practice.
I created this slogan, the book, as a means of raising awareness, and it allows students to relate to this struggle for themselves through letters and words.
Ami Traoré also set up an informal helpline to show callers that they're not alone in their suffering.
How are you feeling today about your mutilation?
In Ivory Coast, genitally mutilated women don't have the option of professional psychological support. Ami Traoré took it upon herself to try to fill that gap.
I mainly raise awareness about the issue, but I also refer women when they need judicial or medical help.
Psychologie, je peux toujours référer par exemple au médecin
She often refers women to Dr. Combe, one of the few surgeons specialized in reconstructive surgery. This patient was mutilated at a young age.
This little bit right here, that's what's cut off.
Dr. Combe can offer help for some of the major risks she faces, like infection, deep bleeding, and complications at childbirth. But the underlying problem of the continued practice of FGM remains.
The big problem is awareness, not necessarily surgery. Surgery comes after the campaigning.
Ivory Coast has pledged to eradicate female genital mutilation by 2030, and activists like Ami Traoré believe this can only happen by addressing gender inequality and the need for economic development.
Well, preparations are in full swing in Nigeria ahead of presidential elections on the 25th. Over the weekend, voters headed out to polling stations across the country to try out a new system. Caroline Lamberley has more.
It's meant to curb vote rigging. Over the weekend, the new system was trialed in a number of polling stations across Nigeria. Using what looks like a tablet, electoral officials identify voters through fingerprints and facial recognition. Voters in the main city, Lagos, said the system was running smoothly.
I had to go and pick my card, and when I came out, I did not spend a single minute, before I was accredited. That is a very good, score mark, on the part of INEC.
The Electoral Commission, known as INEC, will receive the results directly from each device. Barring technical glitches, the public should be able to view these results on the portal in real time.
Once the device has been configured at our head office, it will work anywhere. The only one that may have to challenge with is when we are doing the transferring of the result at the end of the day. And it's just like a mobile phone. If you cannot transfer at that section, when we move away from that particular unit, you can get network and it will work.
Nigeria has a long history of allegations of electoral fraud.
A precondition.
In 2019, opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar, who came in second, rejected the results, denouncing what he dubbed a sham election. His party accused President Muhammadu Buhari and his All Progressives Congress, the APC, of trying to alter the course of history and disenfranchise the Nigerian people by canceling and manipulating figures. The head of the European Union's observer mission flagged up serious operational shortcomings, which it said put undue burden on voters. Among these, issues with electronic voting machines, which made it difficult for many to cast their vote.
And finally, singer Tems has made history by becoming the first Nigerian woman to win a Grammy. The 27-year-old won the accolade for Best Melodic Rap Performance with her part in the hit single Wait For You. We'll leave you with the sounds of her winning tune. Thanks for joining us. Do so again.
Storm when it comes, she understand I can't take her everywhere, nigga going. I've been in the field like the children of the corn. I can hear your tears when they drop over the phone. Get mad at yourself cause you can't